NBA playoffs on NBC.
Christian Javier brings it. There it goes! Swanson touches one off. 5-0 Atlanta here in the fifth. 6 seconds. Murray hits it downfield. It is caught. DeAndre Hopkins. Chicago with the lead. Timeout, Utah.
Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Louis Sports Network. It is your boy Louis coming back at you once again with another heavy hitter live stream with yet another video. Make sure to smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure those notifications are turned on. Make sure you guys are sharing on your social media platforms. Truly appreciate it. Hope everybody is having a wonderful late Wednesday evening. Peace and blessings to everybody as always, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. We got a couple of things we got to talk about in terms of the Lakers because I just felt like I needed to make an impromptu video because I had no plans on coming on tonight. But after what I saw today on ESPN and on a couple of YouTube channels regarding the situation, I said to myself, let me make sure that I kind of gather all the facts and make sure that I listen properly so that I could pretty much give my thoughts on this situation. And it's not a good one. So we're definitely going to get started on this. So once again, salute to everybody. And we are going to get started. So the first topic at hand, before we get started, we got to talk about the Lakers and what just historically happened yesterday. Yesterday, against the Phoenix Suns, the Lakers lost by 11 points, and they were officially eliminated from the play-in tournament. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs. And I will get to them in just a moment, but I just had to share that news, even though a lot of people know that already. So that's fine. But make sure you hit that like button as you guys come in. And now to the nitty-gritty. So earlier today on ESPN, they were talking about the Lakers' 48th loss of the season, which is the most ever by a LeBron James-led team, right? So Matt Barnes decided to talk about what were the issues that the Lakers were unable to successfully get into the playoffs and make a run for an NBA title. Because remember, we coming into the season, the Lakers had championship aspirations, and I made a video just real quick on the Lakers season in a nutshell on how much of a comedy show they were this entire season when they were predicted. They had the second best odds, I believe, to win an NBA title this year, or at least get to the NBA Finals and represent the Western Conference, right? And so first person in the building is Zeddy Perry. He says Malika Andrews was out of pocket, period. So let me get to Malika Andrews real quick. So Matt Barnes was talking about how LeBron had a lack of leadership. Now, he was kind of making an excuse with the fact that LeBron was scoring 30 and was in the race for the scoring title. And, he was having an unbelievable year at 37 years old in year 19. But then guess what happened? He starts to talk about his leadership and felt like he didn't do enough as a leader. Kendrick Perkins even agreed, and Ramona Shelburne agreed. So then Malika Andrews, for some reason, all of a sudden gets pouty. She makes this face on TV. And before I get onto what she actually said and got how offended she got, let me just say that Malika Andrews has been one of the best journalists that I've seen on TV. She does incredible work, and she's been very professional in terms of what she does from what I've seen. And I actually enjoy listening to her and enjoy some of her takes. But now here's where things have changed with Malika. All of a sudden, she's kind of changed her outfit a little bit because, again, ESPN, sex sells. So she used to be, some of the outfits she used to wear, I thought they were very professional and all that. And then all of a sudden now she's, dressed a little different, like she's trying to gain attention. And like I said, because she works for that network, that's how they're basing it on a lot of women now, with a few. Shout out to Freddie Gay in the building. And but here's the problem. So when they questioned LeBron's leadership, as Matt Barnes was trying to do, Malika cuts him off. And not only does she cut him off, but then she starts mentioning about the 2013 Lakers when this 2022 Lakers team failed to make the playoffs. And then she's basically said, well, the team with Kobe Bryant and Dwight Howard and Pau Gasol and Steve Nash, they didn't even win a single game. Malika, gotta stop you right there. Because first of all, the Lakers did have championship aspirations in 2012, 2013. You're right. Because Kobe was in London competing for the Olympics for an Olympic gold medal, which would happen to be his second straight gold medal, along with the entire Team USA when you factor in LeBron and Chris Paul and everybody in the crew. Shout out to Jay in the building, appreciate you. Shout out to Karam as well. But this is what I'm starting to see now. I'm starting to see that a lot of people in the media, every chance they get, whether you love or you couldn't stand Kobe as a player, they're now just trying to defame his name now, like every single chance they get, because this is what they do. And it's funny because Kobe, every time he took the opportunity, he would always show up on ESPN every time he got the opportunity. So it's just funny that, again, these guys that show that fake love because they want to show the images of Kobe and Gigi and how he is with Natalia and Vanessa, how he is with the girls, when not too long ago when he played in the NBA, he was known as the quote unquote rapist, right? So Malika then says that those Lakers of 2013, they didn't win a single game. And then she talks about Kobe's next year, the following season. Well, in the games that Kobe played, he averaged 22 points. He only shot 37% from the field and 22% from the three-point line. And the Lakers were 10-25 in the games that Kobe played that year, right? Okay. Let's look at that 2013 season. They had championship aspirations. Yes, they just got Dwight Howard and Steve Nash in the trade. Absolutely. But we have to put that season into context because here's the issue. They started off with Mike Brown and they fired him at an 0-4 start. No, a 1-4 start. So he was fired 5 games into the season. Who was the owner at that time? Jim Buss. Jeannie was doing business. She was in charge of business operations with the Lakers. Bernie Bickerstaff, who was on the coaching staff, he takes over. The Lakers play very, very well as the interim coach. I would have said that you should have let that stuff ride out first before you to consider kind of making a coaching change. But instead, they were thinking about bringing back Phil Jackson. But part of that was Kobe's fault because Kobe wanted to wave off Phil because he thought he could win without him. Okay, but they decided to go Mike D'Antoni. When I saw that, I was like, oh, the Lakers are not going to win. That's the first thing I said. The Lakers are not going to win because Jim Buss, he does not like Phil Jackson. He wanted nothing to do with Phil. Everything that had Phil's imprint on it or that he had a part of, wanted no part of it. And so they decided to take Mike D'Antoni. What is Mike D'Antoni's system, ladies and gentlemen? His system was the 7 seconds or less offense, and he knew he couldn't do that with this Laker team. Kobe raved about it until he saw what that offense was really about. The Lakers were not a good defensive team. Steve Nash got injured and was a shell of himself. Dwight Howard was coming off a torn labrum and he had a back injury. And then Pau Gasol missed 33 games in that 2013 season. Steve Nash missed 32 games. So Kobe Bryant had to play 40 minutes per game. Yeah, he got contributions from the other guys as they were starting to play better. But Kobe was the one leading the charge in his 17th year. The other guys, they contributed too. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Kobe did it all by himself. No, he didn't. But he did carry the load for a guy that was physically declining. He was declining in on both ends of the court, at one point. But he was able to muster everything that he had left in that 2013 season for his 17th year. And he was able to put up 27, 6, and 5. It was one of Kobe's more underrated seasons of his career. The Lakers were able to play well down the stretch. And let's also remember this too. It was game 78. I'll never forget it. April 12th, 2013. Kobe Bryant injures his Achilles. And a couple of plays before that, Kobe had injured his knee and he injured his ankle. Willing the Lakers to try to make the playoffs. Tears his Achilles trying to drive left on Harrison Barnes. Goes to the free throw line, makes 2 free throws, walks off the court when he could barely put weight on that torn Achilles. He does all that. And then when he does that, it inspires the Lakers to play their best basketball of the season. They were playing well already with Kobe as a collective unit when Nash and them all came back, but they were able to win their last two games without Kobe. Here's the problem: Kobe Bryant did not play after he got injured in that game. He missed the rest of the game against the Warriors, and he was out for the rest of the season. The Lakers got swept in the playoffs 4-zip. So my thing is, how can you connect Kobe when Kobe didn't play? You can't connect that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You cannot connect a Kobe who did not play due to an Achilles injury, and then all of a sudden you want to connect it because the Lakers lost. As a matter of fact, nobody held Dwight accountable because Dwight wasn't even really playing up to par. And there were at times where it looked like he quit on the Lakers, in that series. And the Lakers were not good enough as a team to go up against San Antonio. You know, San Antonio was they were well-oiled. They were a well-oiled machine. They, obviously we already know about, their system and, the sacrifice that Duncan had made and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to say this right now. I'm not saying that the Lakers were going to win the title, but you don't think that the Kobe and the Lakers would have at least had a shot to make that series competitive? Besides, the Lakers were actually in 2 games out of the 4 in that series. They just ended up losing those games in the fourth quarter. 1 game in San Antonio and 1 game in Los Angeles. I think it was games 2 and 3. But getting back to what I was saying, you don't think Kobe has an opportunity to at least make the series even more competitive? But instead, Malika Andrews wants to concoct a narrative that they didn't even win, right? They didn't win because, even if Kobe Bryant didn't play, it's still his fault because the Lakers, they got swept. They didn't even win a single game. That Laker team was an anomaly. Excuse me. It's an anomaly. Before I continue, let me get to the comment section real quick. Zeddy Perry says it was fake as F. Kobe didn't even play. Karam says first it was Rachel Nichols, and now it's her too. She sold her soul basically for the 4-letter network and for you-know-who, because I'll get to him in a little bit. Zeddy says that was fake as F. He only played 6 games the season afterwards. Omar says, I have to say this was out of pocket. She didn't even have to tear down Kobe like that. Due to injuries, Kobe played with less and made the playoffs. LeBron can't play impossible Laker elimination games. LeBron time in LA should be done. None heart whatsoever. Hell yeah. Kobe was the Spurs killer. Spurs won by 31 in LA in game 3. Salute. Spurs won by 21 in game 4. Well, I wasn't talking about game 4. I was talking about game 3. But game 3, I was saying that they were a little more competitive when they were, in San Antonio. But in LA, they just got their butts kicked. So, you're right. I said games 2 and 3, but I think they were more competitive in San Antonio compared to LA. They weren't even really competitive in LA. And Omar says that's the most thing out of all I hate about the sports media is that they will tear down an athlete just to uplift their favorite athlete. What happened to reporting sports news anymore? And it's sad. All right, as we continue. So the fact that Malika decided to do that, to give an excuse as to why LeBron James and the Lakers were not only 17 games under 500, they failed to make the playoffs. Kobe's Lakers won 45 games. They won 45 games. And that was good enough for the 7th seed. The Lakers are in 11th place. A LeBron James-led basketball team is 17 games under 500. Like I said, I will get into them in just a bit. But my point is, the fact that Malika lied on TV like that to tear down Kobe to give an excuse to LeBron just lets you know where she's at. And I thought that she was a respected journalist. So is she going to apologize? I have absolutely no idea. I don't know. But if this is going to be the beginning of where she continues to make excuses for Bron, that's going to be a problem. Because again, who is the face of the Lakers right now? It's LeBron James. He has to take blame. We need to blame street clothes because he came out and said, "Oh yeah, well, what if we were not injured? What if we had everybody healthy? What if we could have been better?" I'm like, Anthony Davis, street clothes. You should be the last person talking about what ifs. You missed 39 games this year. You missed 36 games last year. And you only missed 9 games in the bubble season. Okay? So I don't want to hear crap from you because you don't even have the right to talk. So there's that. Russ, I mean, what can we say about Russ? I mean, I told y'all that Russ was not going to win with the Lakers. You give him real expectations, he wasn't going to win. When you're playing with LeBron James, it's win now with him. So the fact that you had a ball dominant player with a high basketball IQ, but made a low IQ basketball decision by bringing a lower IQ basketball player in Russell Westbrook, that was not going to mesh. So I'm sorry. It was a bad fit from the beginning, and I said the Lakers aren't going to win with this. I said, look, I said I would. I said before the season started, I would be the first to give LeBron credit if LeBron was able to make this work. But the reason I told y'all that LeBron did this was he was trying to troll Kevin Durant. I said that he tried to do it, and it backfired, and it backfired in his face. And I'm going to continue to get on the Lakers in just a bit, but once again, let me check the comments section. So G Money says it was very disrespectful for Malika to crap on Kobe's name to pump up Bron. And for those of you who did not see it, Malika said that the Lakers didn't win a single game when Kobe Bryant played. And on top of that, she was like, well, the Lakers, the very next year when Kobe Bryant played in 35 games, see, but this is how you know Malika lied. You know why? Because she didn't even talk about 20. She said 24. She said the very next year, right? When Kobe averaged those 22 points on 37% shooting and 22% from the field, that was in 2015. 2014, you can't judge Kobe on that because Kobe only played 6 games that year. He missed 76 games. Every time I say this, people are just like, well, Kobe had 6 straight losing seasons. He had 5 straight losing seasons. And I'm like, I would give you the benefit of the doubt if Kobe played a lot of those games and he had no impact on winning. I would give you the benefit of the doubt. But you can't give the player the benefit. You cannot do that to Kobe when he did not really play the next year. He only played 6 games and he ended up tearing his ACL and he was done for the year. The Achilles injury was the forefront for more injuries to come, and it diminished and it ended Kobe's career. It ended his career just like that. That's what happened. Zeddy Perry says LeBron has got 5 Hall of Famers and 4 top 75 players on his team. What the hell is the excuse? I don't want to hear it. Jay says 4-letter been doing that since LeBron was in high school. Freddie says, what did Malika say? You just heard it. They need to stop babying these dudes. Russ, shout out to Tara Matthews. Long time no see. Hope everything's good with you. What's up, G Money? Russ is benchmade. AD is the last player to be talking because he can't even stay healthy. Mr. Street Clothes can't even stay in shape. So yeah, and the fact that Matt Barnes didn't check her for that, and he kind of let her say her thing, is kind of like, oh, you see? I said, oh, that's that go along, get along gang talk. You see? I said, I knew that was gonna happen. So, like I said, I don't care where you have Kobe Bryant ranked all time. I don't care what you think about Kobe as a person, but I'm saying as a basketball player, Kobe put in the work for 20 years. Whether you love him or you hate him, you got to respect what Kobe put in the work for 20 years, man. He was in the NBA for over half his life. And for Malika Andrews to come out and try to excuse LeBron James by saying the 2013 Lakers didn't win a single game, I said, and Ramona was funny because she checked her and she said, but the Lakers made the playoffs. But she was like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And she was like, because they still didn't win a game. And I was like, Kobe Bryant didn't play. You understand that, right, Malika? I don't know if you were misinformed because I just don't want to jump on your throat, but Kobe Bryant didn't play. The next year he came back, trying to come back from that Achilles tendon tear. He tore his ACL. But you will never hear the true story. Like I said, I don't care if you don't like the player. Tell the truth about his career. And the truth is, Kobe got injured the next year. So she wants to mention about 2015. After that 2013 failed super team attempt by the Lakers, they went into rebuild mode. They were rebuilding. The Laker front office told Kobe Bryant, we are rebuilding. So they pretty much used Kobe to sell tickets because Kobe was still a main attraction, just like how LeBron James is right now with these current Lakers. The only difference is Bron is not as injury riddled as Kobe, even though Bron is starting to get injured more because he's getting older. But my point is, Kobe was a main attraction. That's why Laker fans were still selling out because Kobe was still there. The problem is because Kobe's body broke down, a lot of players did not want to come play with him because they knew they were going to take the blunt. That was going to happen. Okay. Freddie says, why do people always compare their leadership styles? I mean, you got to blame the media for that because they're the ones that create, they're the one that concoct these narratives. That's the problem. And then the fans that listen, they're the ones that are going to they're going to make the comment. They're the ones who comment on it. But that all starts with the media. So, and that's the issue. So my thing is, um, so what I'm saying is that the fact that she did that, that was a slap in the face of Kobe's grave. Rachel Nichols was doing it too. She was doing it to Kobe too. And she kept coming on TV, talked about how she met Kobe back in '96, how Kobe shows amazing love for her. It's all fake love because now Malika, it was all respect before, but she changed her tune now today. And I'm just saying to myself, what is going on? And I'm saying, like, if this continues, we're going to see that behavior, right? So my thing is, as I look into the comment section, Tara says Kobe's top 5 for me, for sure. But Kobe is put there in season 20 with ice packs on his knees and shoulders, giving us his all every night for, I think, 60 games, unlike LeBron, who sits out. Now, I'm not saying that LeBron ain't probably hurt with his knee, but my issue is I got to ask this question. Why was LeBron ducking all these top teams in the NBA? Like the teams with the winning records? Because this is what's going to kill me as I get to the Lakers next. Because now, Malika, that was real foul on her part. That definitely was not cool because the thing is you gotta hold everybody accountable. And when I blame the Lakers, I blame the front office for allowing Bron to give this power to Bron, and then Bron, he's got to be the leader on the court. So I'm gonna get to the Lakers right now because I'm gonna switch the thumbnail and get back to Malika in just a second. But now I'm gonna switch the thumbnail because now I got to talk about what Frank Vogel said about the Lakers after they got eliminated last night. So let me just lower this a little bit. Perfect. All right. So now this is what I found out, folks. Check it. As Freddie Gee said, oh wait, Tara says, well, Zeddy says the HGH. Freddie says definitely a slap in the face of Kobe. I don't know why if Math is going to bring up Kobe's name to shit on Bron, just to say Bron stinks as a leader. If those are his thoughts, just keep it moving. Because the thing is that Matt Barnes was talking about Bron's leadership. He praised for his amazing play, but then talked about his leadership. And then Malika all of a sudden intervenes, and then boom, wants to mention about Kobe. And I'm like, because she wants to mention that 2013 team. That was big messed up on her part. All right. Shout out to Yes Ski in the building, guys. Make sure to hit that like as well, man. Make sure to share the video. I'm doing great, Yes Ski. How about you, man? And yo, I can't wait. Gonna be doing Giants baseball again, man. So we're back in it, man. Yo, Freddie Gee, by the way, now that you're here, I'm doing your Braves. So opening night for Atlanta. I'm doing Reds and Braves. So yo, make sure you pull up, man. Defending world champs. Freddie says Malika should have took the high road. Don't shit on Kobe because somebody shit on Bron, especially on TV. She shouldn't have said nothing, man. Like Freddie said, she just should have kept it moving. By you doing that, you knew that was going to cause controversy. And there's people who already have made videos on it. And I said LeBron is going to get even more hate now for this because Malika stood up for him on TV. Kendra Perkins, for somebody who was on the payroll, he kept it real. He said the Lakers were trash. And he held LeBron accountable. Now, Frank Vogel, after the Lakers so let's talk about the Lakers. Everybody knows that the Lakers failed to win this season. They know that so this is how historically bad. Opening day's tomorrow, Freddie. Tomorrow. It's tomorrow. This is how historically bad the Lakers have been this year. The Lakers have only won 31 games this year. That's number one. Number two, the Lakers have now finished 6 games worse than what MJ's Wizards finished because that's another thing that the media also did. They decided to bring up MJ's Wizard years and realized that MJ did not have a talented team. Now, he's partly responsible for putting that team together is MJ. But what people fail to realize about that Wizards team is back-to-back years, they had no championship. They didn't have any championship expectations. So they were not expected to be champions. That's number one. Number two, before Michael came back and decided to play, the Wizards only had won 19 games. They only won 19 games the previous year. 19 games. That's it. Before he came back. Only 19 games. And they won 18 games as an improvement, and that was with Doug Collins as the head coach. With Doug Collins as the head coach, they were able to make an 18-game improvement. Yeah, and Kobe helped them get them to the playoffs, right? So this is how real bad they are. So not only are they going to finish a worse record with MJ's Wizards when MJ's Wizards weren't even that talented, even though they did get Jerry Stackhouse, but Jerry Stackhouse was never a number one option. He thought he was on every team he played for. That's why him and Allen Iverson didn't get along, and that's why they didn't work out. He tried the same thing with Jordan, and that's why he said that playing with Jordan was it was arguably the worst thing in his career. But that's because Jerry Stackhouse, you are not a number one option. You was never a number one option. And when you were a number one option, you didn't really impact the game on winning because you were just mostly scorer. And Stackhouse was an inefficient scorer. He was a volume scorer. Anyway, this is how bad they are. The San Antonio Spurs are not really that good of a team. They finished ahead of the Lakers by beating the Denver Nuggets last night. The Pelicans, who were not as talented, and they were missing Zion Williamson pretty much all year, are about to be in the play-in tournament too. The Lakers are right now are 11th in the Western Conference. 11th. And this is why, do you think it's bad for LeBron now? Wait till this offseason and wait till right now. The Pelicans started pretty bad. And ever since CJ McCollum got traded there, the Pelicans have been playing better, including Brandon Ingram. The Spurs, I believe, have won 7 or 8 in a row, and they were supposed to be tanking. The Lakers are in the bottom west with the Houston Rockets, the Sacramento Kings, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, why is that a Laker team with Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Dwight Howard with those teams? They shouldn't be. They should not be down there. And my thing is now, you know what's even worse that I just realized? If the Lakers lose to the Golden State Warriors tomorrow, did you know that now Bron's Lakers will even have a worse record than Kobe's Lakers the first year that he had his own team without Shaq? And in that year, Lamar Odom missed 18 games and Kobe Bryant missed 16. If they lose tomorrow to the Warriors, because there's still 3 games left, the Lakers could lose possibly 50 games because they still have to play the Nuggets one more time, and they play OKC. Oh, by the way, LeBron James is now done for the season. You know why he's done for the season? Because in LeBron's mind, he was going for that scoring title. But because the way this season went, guess what? If LeBron James would have decided to play the last 2 games, and listen, if LeBron wants to do that, I don't have a problem with LeBron trying to get the scoring title. But the problem is, if he would have done that, that would have been some buck dancing BS that he would have did, because he wanted to prove that at age 37 in year 19, which is going to be the narrative, that Bron was able to lead the league in scoring, and he did a historic feat that no player has done at age 37. And my thing is, and Freddie Gee had mentioned it in another stream that I did, LeBron's points are not impacting winning. And I said, if you're going to If you're going to score, make sure that you're doing other intangibles to help your team win, to have the impact. Your your leadership was god awful. It was god awful. And just some of the quotes that he said all season. But before I get to those quotes, I'm going to talk about Frank Vogel. So Frank Vogel, it says on clutchsports.com, I'm sorry, clutchpoints.com, there is a report that was recorded half a day ago, 12 hours ago, saying that Frank Vogel threw the Lakers under the bus for their defensive failures. So it says that their disappointing season is nearing its end, with the team already out of play-in contention after the Knights lost to Phoenix. The Lakers didn't exactly deserve a shot at being in the playoffs after such a distraught campaign, with Russell Westbrook proven to be a huge failure. While injuries played a part in LA's struggles, one of their biggest problems was their inability to play defense. Head coach Frank Vogel highlighted just that on Tuesday to the Athletic's Bill Oram. And this is what Frank Vogel said, and I quote: "The habit building, there was a lot to make up with," Vogel said. "Guys that did not have great defensive habits." Let me stop you right there. Who decided to construct this roster? You got guys who can score, but guys who can't defend. What is Bron's MO when it comes to having a pretty damn good team? You have to have a veteran group, and you have to have shooters around you. Veteran group, shooters. That's how LeBron has won his whole career. Veteran players and shooters to space the floor. That's how LeBron has won his whole career. LeBron has not really been able to play in the system other than the Miami Heat. He went back to the LeBron system when he went back to Cleveland. He's been playing the LeBron system since he's been in Los Angeles. And when he tried to play the NC, the only thing that was able to mask that was the team that he had with the Lakers were a very good dominant defense. They were a very good defensive team. But they got rid of their defenders after the bubble title. They got rid of their defensive players, and they signed a bunch of old geezers who choose not to defend, who don't put effort on the defensive end, who defend with two left feet. But who was in charge of that? Because Anthony Davis came out and he said that LeBron was part of the process, and he said that LeBron and AD were given the courtesy on the okay of the construction of the roster. So he said that they played a part in the construction of the roster, which is why LeBron has got no excuses, because your teammate Street Clothes just ratted you out. And how did he do it? Because he said you and him were given the okay in the construction. But who gave you the power, LeBron? Who gave you the power? Jeannie Buss. Which is why that lady over there in the thumbnail deserves a lot of blame too. She's one of these groupie owners that I can't stand. And this is my question once again. Who is the leader of the Lakers? Who was the leader of the Lakers? You would have thought it was LeBron, but his leadership was ass this year. This is the same LeBron James that said, "I brought in Russell Westbrook to toughen AD up." LeBron James, you're the leader of the team. Why is it that Russ has to toughen up AD? Russ was not on this team. Remember, you had 2 seasons with Anthony Davis before Russ got there. What do you mean you brought in Russ to toughen AD up? I'm sorry, last time I checked, when Pau Gasol was not tough and he was soft and he was being labeled soft around in the NBA, Kobe helped him become mentally tougher. And Pau Gasol was able to help deliver 2 championships to the Los Angeles Lakers back to back, after they lost to the Celtics in 2008, and it was their time because they were clearly the better team at the time. But Kobe helped toughen Pau up, and Pau became a much better player, and the Lakers won back-to-back titles in a big contributing part to Pau because of Pau Gasol. But this Laker team, as talented as it is, they were blessed and lucky enough to be in the play-in, and they couldn't even make the play-in. This is what gets me so mad about LeBron. And here's okay. And here's what Vogel said too, going into the quote. He goes, "You know what I mean? So you coach it on a daily basis and push them to be accountable, but there was just a lot of overcome with this team." Okay, so the Lakers are not a really young team. I think they're the oldest team in the NBA. If not, I know they're in the top. They got to be in the top three at the very least. So it says that the Lakers were 23rd in defensive rating this year, ranked 23rd overall. And then it said the offensive lineups that he tried to put on the floor sometimes resulted in problems on the opposite end. And Frank Vogel goes back in and says, and I quote, "The nature of how our offensive pieces fit together didn't allow us to play with a defensive size and positional size that I typically like to have to give us that type of defensive success," Vogel said. So there were a lot more smaller lineups to open up the floor because of how our offensive pieces fit. What does Frank Vogel mean by that? By how our offensive pieces fit? So that means basically it's not Frank Vogel's offensive system because he's a defensive coach. So whose system is this? You guys know what I'm talking about. You need a clue? I'm sitting right underneath him. That's all you need to know. So then he says, trying to make the offense work compromise our defensive identity. As I look into the comment section, G Money says that the Lakers at least went 28-12 after starting 8 games under 500 in 2013 to get to the playoffs. Tara says Vogel was saying that this team was playing hard up until they got eliminated. Come on. These boys have never played hard. And that's what they did. And this is what the Lakers are doing. They're playing the blame game. The front office is like, well, it's not our fault. The players have to go out there and they play. We make the moves, but the players have got to go out there and play. The coach is like, well, I'm trying to implement the system I want, but every time I kept trying to do something on one end, it kept taking away something from Iron. And then the players are like, Russ is like, well, I don't know, like, I'm not really sure what we could do from here. Do you see it? Like, what do you think we need to do? And LeBron is like, oh, my ankle, it hurts pretty bad. My knee, it's in bad shape. LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers lost to a Portland Trailblazer team that was missing about 5 to 6 players. And that's when Russ sat down. And LeBron led the team in turnovers, and they lost a close game to a team that was playing a G League C squad. As I continue in the comment section, the Lakers were only 11-10 with the big three this year, and they barely beat bad teams. And I want to click on this comment right here because this is very important that G Money just mentioned. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because you know what happened? This is the excuse that LeBron used earlier in the season when this happened. According to him, he said, and I quote, that the Lakers, they were dealing with injuries as to why they were losing. And then he also said, oh, but Golden State and the Phoenix Suns, they're pretty much was relatively healthy. Let me expose that right there. As G Money, I put that on the quote. Check this out. First of all, the Phoenix Suns, let's look at their injury history this season. Cam Johnson injured his had a hamstring injury, or what? It was a hamstring or a groin injury. It was one of the two, but he had an injury. Devin Booker had COVID protocols twice. DeAndre Ayton was out with an injury. Jay Crowder was out with COVID protocol. Cam Payne had an ankle injury. Chris Paul had a broken hand. Oh, wait a minute. Did I also mention that Dario Saric has not played at all this year, and he's been injured since last year's playoffs against the Nuggets? Did you also fail to mention that Frank Kaminsky still hasn't played since last year neither? So the Suns have dealt with injuries all year, and they've been playing 8, 9-man rotations for most of this season. And Devin Booker also had an injury as well. So that's not an excuse, LeBron James. Then on top of that, the Golden State Warriors. Shout out to Anthony L in the building, guys. Make sure to hit that like as you guys come in. Let's see. The Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry's out right now. He's out for the rest of the season. Draymond Green missed a ton of games with a bad back. Klay Thompson did not come back until January, at some point in January. Let's see. They've had Otto Porter out with injury. They've had Gary Payton II out with injury. James Wiseman is still out with injury. What is LeBron talking about? What is LeBron talking about? See, he tried to troll and be petty, and it backfired. Let's see. The Memphis Grizzlies, they didn't have Jaren Jackson to start the year. They don't have Dylan Brooks right now. John Moran is out injured. So what excuse is that? I'm sorry. That was the worst. That was one of the worst excuses I heard from LeBron James. It's like you can't even control what's going on with your own team, and you're comparing yourself to other teams in the NBA. Basically, everybody. Oh, let's go to the Denver Nuggets. Jokic hasn't played with Jamal Murray all year, and Michael Porter Jr. has missed most of this season. The Nuggets are not as talented as the Los Angeles Lakers. So, LeBron, once again, you're making excuses. I mean, you could even say for the Dallas Mavericks, they haven't had Tim Hardaway Jr. Luka was out with injury. Kristaps Porzingis, before he got traded, he was out with injuries. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, LeBron James? The Pelicans haven't had Zion Williamson all year. All year. That's no. I'm sorry. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, man. Shout out to Tyrese. Salute, man. Salute. So my thing is, this team had no heart. This team had no heart. Frank Vogel threw him under the bus, and I said the Lakers are playing the blame game right now. All they're doing is just pointing fingers at each other. And Joy Taylor made a great point when I was watching Speak for Yourself. She was basically saying who is the leader of the team? Who is going to hold it? There's no accountability. That's why I kept telling y'all all season, who is the leader of the Lakers? Because LeBron keeps making this claim that he's the leader, but it's like every time something goes wrong, it's like he wants to disassociate himself from the team. And let me put this in perspective. When LeBron was in, forget Cleveland, forget his first 7 years in Cleveland. We're going to go from Miami to Cleveland to LA. When LeBron won, he got all the credit in Miami. When LeBron lost, it was Dwayne Wade's fault. It was Chris Bosh's fault. Eric Spoelstra couldn't make adjustments. It was Ray Allen's fault. It was Rashard Lewis's fault, Birdman's fault, Mike Miller's fault, Shane Battier's fault, Norris Cole's fault, Mario Chalmers' fault. When he went back to Cleveland, teamed up with Kyrie, traded Andrew Wiggins with Kevin Love. When LeBron won, LeBron got all the credit. When LeBron lost, it was Kyrie's fault. It was Kevin Love's fault. Ty Lue can't coach for a damn lick. He ain't the coach. LeBron is the coach of the team. Dan Gilbert is a terrible owner. It was Richard Jefferson's fault. Channing Frye's fault. Tristan Thompson's fault. Iman Shumpert's fault. Timothy Mozgov's fault. Matthew Dellavedova's fault. And now that he comes to LA, when Bron wins, he gets all the credit. When LeBron loses, it's AD's fault. It's Russell Westbrook's fault. It's Frank Vogel's fault. It's Dwight Howard's fault. It's Carmelo Anthony's fault. It's Ken Basemo's fault. Somebody's uncle. It's Malik Monk's fault. It's Austin Reeves' fault. Do y'all see what the common denominator is? This has been happening ever since he left the first time in Cleveland and went to Miami. LeBron is the common denominator. This isn't hate. This is from what I've seen this season. So, getting back to the comment section. The Grizz are 20-3 without Ja, says Freddie. Says G Money. Freddie says, G Money, I agree. I'm just saying 21 games is basically a month and a half to a 2-month span in basketball. G Money says also the Clippers are in the play-in and PG missed 50 games. Oh, let's get to the Clippers. Thank you. That's another team. The Clippers have not, first of all, Kawhi Leonard hasn't played all year. Paul George missed 50 games. Ty Lue had to make adjustments to his lineup. At one point, they didn't have Zubac. Reggie Jackson actually missed a couple of games too. And the Clippers, what kept them in games? Their defense. Sometimes they had a hard time scoring the basketball because they were missing their two best players that can give you a combined anywhere from 52 to 55 points. Two guys that have the ability to take over a game. And this is how bad the Lakers season is. They got swept by the Clippers this year. 3 of the 4 games in which Paul George didn't play. There was no Kawhi Leonard. And the Clippers are going to at least be in the play-in tournament, at the very least. And watch out for the Clippers next year at full strength with Norman Powell and Robert Covington, who Norman Powell has missed time since he's been traded. You don't think this Clipper team is going to be scary next year at full strength? Yeah, I have no idea. Guys, make sure to share the stream and hit that subscribe button as well. But this is the biggest bust in NBA history for the Lakers. You had championship expectations. LeBron thought that he could. You see, what was Magic Johnson's biggest fear? He was saying that we didn't want a repeat of Cleveland in LeBron's last year and his entire tenure in his second stint in the Lakers stint. And let's look at LeBron's career in LA. Missed the playoffs in his first year, despite the fact that he had the Lakers in 4th place, as LeBron fans always love to make claim. Fine. Next year, the Lakers were in 1st place. I give them credit. Do we know if they were going to win the NBA title or not? We don't know because the pandemic happened. And after the pandemic happened, the Lakers were the only team that was allowed to practice. Everybody else had COVID protocols. The Lakers had 2 players in COVID protocol, and nobody found out who they were. They got to practice while the other teams had to deal with that, and they didn't really get the practice time. On top of the fact that a lot of teams were not really interested in even coming to the bubble. Now, that's their fault because they chose to play. But LeBron, I remember when he acted like he cared about the people and was like, well, they need to shut the season down. See, when he said that and then realized that he probably would have lost his opportunity at a 4th ring is when he had a change of heart. And he said that we need to play for the fans. No, LeBron, you were playing for you. You were playing for you. You needed to make sure that you got that 4th ring. So don't come here and say you were playing for the fans. You were playing for yourself, sir. You were not playing for the fans. Don't come here and say you were playing for the fans. I'm sorry. Anthony L says, Malika trying too hard to make herself look more important than what she is. Molly does the same exact thing, always over-talking the guests and being condescending towards the men. It wasn't just the fact that she was condescending. She interrupted Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes didn't even check her. Shout out to Ramona Shelburne, who told Malika. Malika was like, well, they didn't win a single game. And then Ramona said, but they made the playoffs with 45 wins. And she's like, but they didn't even win a single game. And I said, but you failed to leave. You left the part out that Kobe tore his Achilles trying to will the Lakers into the playoffs. And the Lakers finished, as G-Money said, they finished 28-12 to end the season. After the first 42 games, they were 8 games on the 500. They could have easily folded. And Kobe was guaranteeing that the Lakers were going to make the playoffs because the media was asking Kobe, and they were telling him, thinking about next year, do you think about just giving it up? Because the media also could have used that to their advantage for their narrative against Kobe Bryant too. They could have. And the injuries are a part of the game, but it's a next man up mentality. As long as your teammates enjoy playing together, they should be good. The Lakers quit, and that's exactly what they did. That's a bad example you're setting for Los Angeles. Los Angeles is about winning championships, and the Lakers quit. They quit. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. They quit. And the fact that we don't know who the leader is and LeBron is just trying to separate himself from the Lakers, what does that tell you about LeBron? That he was never about the Lakers. You got to understand this. LeBron used the Lakers for his personal brand. He never cared about the Lakers. which is why I look at LeBron, and when he wears that Lakers uniform, he's not a true Laker. LeBron will always be a Cleveland Cavalier, and he will always be a Miami Heat because he had more impact on those organizations than he really had as a Laker. Even though he won a chip, you know how people are going to look at that chip because now he's got a first round exit and he has another missed playoffs on his resume. And I've already talked to some LeBron fans who have dropped him on their all-time list. I'm not gonna go that drastic or as far, but they've dropped him out of their top list because they feel like he's cheated the game and he's disrespected the organization because he's looking at stats. And it's funny because I told y'all, LeBron decided not to play for the rest of the season because his PR team probably told him it's going to be a bad look on you if you try to play these teams that right now are struggling to try to win the scoring title knowing that you're out of the playoffs. So that's why they shut it down. Because trust me, if he would have did that, that would have been bad. And the thing is also, there's rumors, ladies and gentlemen, that LeBron has come out and said that he would like one of the players that he would like to play with would be Steph Curry. And he mentioned that in his show, The Shop. I don't know too much about it, but these are rumors that I've been hearing because I've seen videos that were already made earlier. And I said, well, according to Steph Curry, he said that he's good. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if there's even really been any conversation. Here's what I'm going to say. If LeBron decides that he's kind of hinting on going to the Golden State Warriors, LeBron's never going to be looked at the same, even if LeBron is in year 20 at age 38, because they're going to say LeBron is just out here chasing championships. And it's like, you left the Lakers, you created a mess that you want the Lakers themselves to clean up when you were the one that decided to, to make some of these roster moves. Because AD said that you had a hand in them. So you can't make that excuse, sir. Not at all. You just can't. You just can't. Guys, make sure to hit that like. All right, man. Let me check the comment section. As Freddie Gee says, answer the question. Freddie says, were those 21 games consecutively? It's like I said, if the Lakers would have played a system, made a commitment to defense, trust me, they have enough talent, man, to be one of the top teams in the West. But they decide. And another thing, I got to get on street clothes. Street clothes, AD, and I think this is why LeBron is low-key mad at AD as well, not just Russ. Anthony Davis was content for that championship, man. AD was content after that championship. So Brandon, we believe in generation says, I disagree. Somebody's always looking to blame LeBron for something. I'm sorry, sir. Nope. He got to get blamed for this. He has to get blamed. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't be the leader and then separate yourself saying it's not your fault. As a leader, you have to take responsibility. You can't. The Laker organization themselves, as I told you, I blame Russ, I blame AD, I blame LeBron, I blame Pelinka, and I blame Jeannie Buss. They're the 5 main culprits of this whole thing. But LeBron has to get a big part of it because of the fact that he was the one that said okay to this roster, and AD confirmed it. He confirmed it. He confirmed it. So because he confirmed it, that's got to go on. That's got to go on him. Because I'm already saying that AD was not available. That's on him. He chose not to train right. He was content on that championship, which means that AD, as talented as he is, he has a low motor. You can't go 1 minute, oh, LeBron is the reason that they're winning. He's the leader of the team. And then another minute, you're going to say it's not his fault. He's 37 years old. Everybody else has stayed up. Let me say this. I get it. You're a professional. You make millions of dollars. You're supposed to go out and perform. But see, this is also the problem. The money in today's NBA has made players very, very, very lazy. Very lazy. Because it's about brand now, and it's not about basketball. It's about brand and not basketball. Jeannie Buss is a groupie. She is a groupie. Why is Kurt Rambis in the front office? Why is Linda Rambis in the front office giving her advice? Because you got to ask yourself this question: why was Phil Jackson low key there in some of these games that the Lakers were losing? Phil Jackson was there and he was giving advice to Jeanie. That was kind of weird that Phil Jackson all of a sudden popped out of nowhere, and I hadn't seen Phil in a long time. And I was like, why is Phil Jackson there? And he was showing up in a couple of those Laker games. And on top of that, here's the thing as well. Magic Johnson. Do y'all honestly really believe that Magic Johnson really left the Lakers? No, he didn't. Jeanie Buss, I bet you, was telling Magic. Jeanie Buss was telling, because ask yourself this question. Why do you think Magic came out and said what he said on ESPN? Why do you think he came out and said that? Magic is still affiliated with the Lakers. It's like he left, but he never really left. Magic never really left. Which is why I said that first and foremost, the first thing that needs to be done, the Lakers need new ownership. Because Jeanie Buss has actually disgraced the Laker organization. If Jerry Buss was still alive, this would have never happened. And despite the fact that a lot of drama has happened in the Laker organization in his tenure, he never let anybody take reins of that organization. Never. 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 Nope. That's how you see, Brandon, you're being fooled. You're being fooled. No, you're being fooled. LeBron is having a great year at age 37, but you're being fooled. You can't be playing at an MVP type level, but you're 17 games on the 500. You can't. And notice that I equally put the blame on AD, on Russ, on Jeanie, on Rob, and on LeBron. You cannot take LeBron off the blame. You can't. You cannot take LeBron off the blame. He's the leader of the team. He's the one that LeBron fanboys love to say at age 37. He's the greatest 37-year-old we've ever seen. Year 19. Look what Bron's doing. Bron is doing what he's doing. He's giving it his all. But I've seen many games this season where LeBron James, if he doesn't get a foul call on the offensive end, the Lakers are playing 5-on-4 on defense. If your leader is not willing to compete on the defensive end and give at least some kind of effort, the rest of the team ain't going to do that. Tyree is right. Key point right here. Key point right here. Tyree's right. Absolutely right. Check it out. Look what he says. If this thing would appear, this is what he said. He says, Anthony L., even if we got DeRozan or Buddy Hield, it would have been the same old story. You know why? And Tyree's absolutely right, because what was going to happen was DeRozan is not going to get to play his play style on the Lakers. And you know Buddy Hield was going to get the blame too if he didn't play. So the problem is that you're using stats, but you're not telling the whole story. LeBron has a negative plus minus on the court. He's not the only one. Russ has had a negative plus minus. I think Malik Monk is one of the only players on the team that has a positive plus minus when he's on the floor. Malik Monk has actually played very well this year. He's played well. I'm sorry. Oh, Anthony L says that wasn't my argument. Oh, okay. Anthony L says that I'm not saying we needed DeRozan, but the point I was trying to make was that LeBron acted as if he had no control over the roster. Oh, no. The deal was in place to get was supposed to get Buddy Hield or DeRozan. Well, now according to reports, it was that the Lakers didn't want to give a fourth year to DeRozan, so that's one thing. But they were in the discussion of getting Buddy Hield. LeBron wanted Westbrook. LeBron wanted Westbrook. He thought he could troll KD and said he could win with him. He thought he could win and it backfired. And the worst part was then LeBron goes out and he praises Sam Presti. He praises the GM of the Los Angeles Rams. He praised the Rams. He comes out and says, while the Lakers are losing, the Dodgers and the Rams, after the Rams win the Super Bowl, and the Lakers, we all need to celebrate our championships in our parade. How about you focus on this season? Shout out to Nathaniel Lubin. Guys, hit the like. If you think I sound like a hater, then you got a problem. If for those of you that think that I'm a hater, you guys got a problem. I've seen this whole season from start to finish. I said if LeBron is able to get it done, they win a real NBA title. Much respect. No questions asked from me. They didn't even make the play-in. And you know what's so funny as well? In 2020, when the pandemic happened, Bron was the one that suggested the play-in to Adam Silver. When those bottom teams like the Grizzlies and the Pelicans were trying to fight for that eighth seed, because remember, they were doing everything in their power to promote Zion to make the playoffs. Remember? And the Pelicans didn't even make the playoffs. And that was for the bubble. Yeah, the Lakers as a whole have been bad, pretty bad, all year. Joy Taylor was right in her assessment, and Rick Bucher was saying it too. They come off as haters for what they were saying, but the bottom line is, who is the leader of the team? There's no accountability. Everybody's pointing fingers at one another because nobody wants to take the blame. And that's just the honest truth. Now the question is, who do the Lakers trade? And Jeannie Buss needs to sell the team because as the daughter of Jerry, the late, great Jerry Buss, she has disgraced the Lakers organization. She's disgraced it, man. Yeah, they were bad from preseason. They went 0-6. Another thing that you got to mention as well is the Lakers did not practice. They didn't practice. How are you supposed to build continuity and chemistry if you don't practice? You know where else that this happened? And as I mentioned a few streams ago, when Isaiah Thomas called out the Cleveland Cavaliers for not practicing. Isn't it funny that LeBron James was on both the Lakers and the Cavaliers, and Isaiah Thomas said that they don't practice? LeBron is the head honcho. He's the de facto. He has to get the blame most because he is the leader of the team. There's no excuses. There's no excuses. The fact that the fanboys are still trying to make excuses for this season, there's none. You had enough talent, at least while the players were out, to try to make it work. Other teams were able to do it. How come the Lakers couldn't do it? Even though they were an older team, I get it. But why didn't you play the young guys more? First of all, Stanley Johnson was not part of the team at the beginning of the season. Neither was Wayne Gabriel, who was bouncing around from team to team. DJ Augustine was not part of the team. They tried to turn Austin Reeves into Alex Caruso, and that didn't work out because Reeves' play has been actually trash these last 2 weeks. And the problem is the Lakers were not winning games even when LeBron was out, but they were playing more like a team. It's just the problem is this roster was constructed poorly, and they don't defend at all. Their biggest problem all season has been defense. And to be honest with you, it's been rebounding. Their rebounding has been actually awful. They've been out-rebounded by some of the smallest teams in the NBA. If they lose to the Golden State Warriors or the Denver Nuggets or the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Lakers will have a worse record than the 2005 Los Angeles Lakers with Kobe Bryant, that had Kobe Bryant on the first year without Shaquille O'Neal. Well, Brandon, I'm glad that you admit that. Which is why, again, the front office and LeBron got to take the brunt of the blame because this roster was put together. And the fact that now neither the front office nor LeBron want to take responsibility, everybody has to be held accountable. Everybody. But I'm glad you mentioned that. This team was too old. And some of the they had to bring, Avery Bradley. He was with Golden State before the season started. You know why Zeddy Perry is saying that? Because he feel like Bron's cheated the game. That's why. That's why he's calling them those names. I myself used to be a LeBron fan. Believe it or not, I used to be a big Bron fan. I used to be a big Bron fan. Frank Vogel was controlling the narrative and making excuses too. LeBron has scapegoats, and the fact that Frank Vogel Frank Vogel came out and threw his Laker team under the bus. You know why? Because LeBron was doing it to some of his teammates too. Did you remember what LeBron said about the young players? This is what he said after they lost to the Pelicans, after they had a 23-point lead with the Pelicans. This is what he said. He said he knew that it was a playoff atmosphere, right? But he said that the young guys on the Lakers squad didn't have enough experience. I said, why would he say something like that? And then he said that the Pelican young players actually have more experience than the Laker players. And I'm just like, and I'm saying to myself, okay, wait a minute. So I said, let me look at the Pelicans roster. And I said, let me look at the guys who are on the roster and let me see who has playoff experience. I said, damn, before CJ McCollum got traded to the Pelicans only had 3 players with playoff experience. That would be Tony Snell, Jonas Valanciunas, and Larry Nance Jr. You add CJ McCollum, that was 4. And then I looked at the Laker roster and I said, Taylor Horton Tucker's been to the playoffs, even though he didn't really play a lot, but he was with you just last year in 2021. You know, the guy that LeBron and AD called the next Kobe Bryant when Taylor Horton Tucker was just that dude is selfish as hell, that Taylor Horton Tucker. That dude don't even play a team system. He's about getting his numbers. So I don't even know why he's on the team. Let's see. LeBron James has played the most games on the team, 267 career playoff games. Carmelo Anthony has played 85 playoff games. 85. Dwight Howard's played 111 playoff games. Russell Westbrook has played 125 playoff games. And where is that note that I have? Because I have it here. Here we go. Oh, let's see. Anthony Davis, 39 career playoff games. Trevor Ariza, 106 playoff games. Avery Bradley, 33 playoff games. DJ Augustine, 38 career playoff games. Kent Bazemore, somebody's uncle, 40 playoff games. And Stanley Johnson played 7. And before they got rid of Rajon Rondo, you already know about Rajon Rondo's playoff experience, right? And so I didn't even mention about some of the other players on the team, but I told y'all that they had a combined 841 games of playoff experience with the names that I just mentioned. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. And LeBron's 200th playoff game was in Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors in 2016. And that's not even mentioning Alex Caruso, who's no longer with the team. That's not even mentioning JaVale McGee, who's no longer with the team. That's not even mentioning KCP, who was no longer with the team. Those are 4 players with playoff experience. And LeBron used that as an excuse as to why they blew a 23-point lead on the road to the Pelicans. Which is why I'm going to continue to say it. LeBron does not deserve a pass, and he cannot get no excuse. I don't care what's his scoring average. I don't care how many points he's put up. And look at it now. The last opportunity that he could have gotten with the scoring title, it's gone out the window now because he has to sit out these last 2 games because he's really going to get hated on if he would have played. And what did LeBron also say? He said, "I'm having the time of my life." Does that sound like a guy who really cares about the Lakers and this season, about winning an NBA title? I told y'all. I told y'all that winning is not his priority. It'll add to it if he's winning. But if he knows he can't win, winning will not be his first priority. I said that when he left the Cavaliers in his last year and came to the Lakers. He tried to come with that energy of his past credentials with his resume coming into a new job, playing for the Lakers. And he tried to say, well, do you know who I am? I'm a 3-time champion, LeBron James. I'm a 4-time MVP. He tried to bring that resume to the Lakerland. Lakerland's like, well, we get all that, but you haven't done crap for us yet. You haven't won anything here in Lakerland. 16 championships, 11 championships in Los Angeles. Brandon says, I disagree. LeBron is a winner. It's not his fault that his teammates are trash. But you see, you're doing that typical LeBron stuff. Isn't he supposed to make his teammates better, though? Because LeBron is the leader of the team. You can't do that. If every single time LeBron is doing his part, but his teammates are trash, you have to trade constantly. You have to constantly trade players. Does LeBron really make his teammates better? Because let me throw something else for you as well in terms of LeBron's career. Look at the players that LeBron's played with. Carmelo Anthony is from his draft class, 2003. He may be past his prime, but he was the number 3 pick in the draft, number 1. He's played with Dwayne Wade, 5th pick in the NBA draft in his same draft class. Chris Bosh, number 4 pick, NBA draft. Dwight Howard, former number 1 pick the very next year in 2004. Obviously past his prime, but that's getting my point. Kyrie Irving, number 1 pick out of Duke after only playing 9 career games at Duke. He had Andrew Wiggins as the number 1 pick in 2014 and traded that for Kevin Love. And now currently, LeBron James traded for Anthony Davis, who was the number 1 pick in the 2012 NBA draft. And he also played with Lonzo Ball, who was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. And he played with Brandon Ingram, who was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft, who they traded for a number 1 pick in Anthony Davis. I know it sounds like hating, it sounds like bashing, but this has been the worst Lakers season of all time. And they've had some bad seasons. During Kobe's last years, 2 of them in post-Kobe years. But you're too talented to miss the play-in, and you're 11th in the Western Conference. This is why I continue to say that LeBron is an unbelievable player. I've said that many times, but you cannot say, and this is why I felt like Bron and Kobe were never really close. What is going on in that comment section, man? Anthony L says, you can't say you're going to carry Kobe's legacy, who played through all kinds of injuries, and then turn around and disrespect that man's legacy by sitting out because of an ankle sprain. You got to make it make sense. See, the thing is that to a certain degree, I get what you're trying to say, Brandon. Bron has won 4 titles, but the problem is that as much as he's won, but he's lost more than he's won. He's lost more than he's won. I must have missed that comment when you were talking about the female, and I'm guessing you're talking about this got to do with Malika. So my question is, what do the Lakers do this offseason? I'm not even sure. Don't know what they're going to do this offseason. But so I'm going to finish it with this before I go. The reason that LeBron came to the Lakers, it was to enhance his legacy, not the Laker legacy, his legacy. That's what it was, because I told y'all before, it sounds nice when you say the word Lakers next to your name. It doesn't sound as nice if you say Cavalier. Miami Heat, not so bad. But again, Los Angeles Lakers, Magic, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe, Jerry, Elgin, Wilt, Mikan, Worthy. LeBron James doesn't belong in that group. Did you remember what AD said when he got traded there that me and LeBron are going to be top 5 Lakers? Do you notice that? He said him and LeBron, when it's all said and done, are going to be top 5 Lakers. But yet in 3 seasons together, you have a first-round exit, you're not even making the playoffs, and you have a bubble title. That doesn't sound top 5-ish to me. Even if Bron is putting up points, having some good scoring seasons late in his career, is not impacting winning. And Laker fans are about results and they're about championships. It's about, what are you doing for me? And they're going to look at this resume and be like, and that's the problem. What Bron should have done was and the Lakers, they should have won a championship, because again, your chip was won in Orlando with no fans. LeBron, you tweeted and said before the season started, keep talking about my squad, keep talking about the injuries, keep talking about how we're old age, and please, please keep that same energy. Why are LeBron fanboys complaining about the energy that he tweeted for us to say to keep? Freddie, you know damn well that if this was any other team, ain't nobody was going to let that go. Especially if you got a favorite player. For example, suppose, let's say Kawhi Leonard would have won this. Let's say Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers would have won that. Let's say it, if they would have won. Me personally, as much as Kawhi's my favorite player, I still would have said and came on here and said that's a bubble title. Because people who don't like Kawhi or who are in support of LeBron will be the same ones that will come out and say that title don't count. And that's why I said that it will expose the bias, which is why I always come out and talk about the bubble. That's why I will always talk about the bubble, because we have biased people that it doesn't matter if it's one player that did it or another, they will still put an asterisk on it. Why do you think people are putting an asterisk on Giannis's title right now? Because they feel like he didn't legit beat anybody. He took advantage of injured teams. Why do you think some people put an asterisk on Toronto's championship that Kawhi Leonard played on? Because they say he took advantage of a Warriors team that didn't have Kevin Durant. Because remember, Kawhi Leonard was all loved when they knocked off the Warriors. The minute he ain't joined Bron, public enemy number one. If the Lakers would have won the chip this year, it would have definitely been valued, man. There's no problem if you disagree. I'm just saying that there's going to be people out there who are going to be biased, and they're going to come out and say, oh, if this player was, the hypotheticals are going to be playing. It's like, oh, if this didn't happen, this would have happened. I would love to be the first one and say, you play who's in front of you. But the thing is, the reason I'm mentioning all of this, guys, think about this. This is why I said that if you think that the hate that Bron gets right now is bad, wait until he retires. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out for him. Look what they're doing to Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant's passed away. You think this is bad? Wait until LeBron hangs it up for good. He will obviously be talked about a lot more because he's gone, especially by these talking heads like Skip and Shannon and Colin Cowherd and Nick Wright. They will find a way to talk. They're going to find a way to talk about Bron, even in retirement. And his fans and his haters, they will always find a way to bring him up no matter what. That's just the name of the game. It's just the name of the game. The problem is when a lot of secret reports are going to come out, that's going to be the issue of how a fan's going to be able to deal with that. So Giannis, to me, well, Kobe gets a lot of love from his fans. Let's get that clear. Kobe Bryant gets a lot of love from his fans. A lot of Laker fans and a lot of Kobe Bryant fans. But besides that, there's some people who respect him, but it's not what you think. I don't know if you was aware, Brandon, but Malika Andrews, she took a shot at Kobe Bryant today to prop up LeBron for what he's doing this season. And you need to look at that article. Well, I shouldn't say that article, but the video. No, I said that Kobe Bryant fans appreciate Kobe. And it's funny because there were times where they didn't like him neither. Did y'all forget what happened when Kobe tried to get traded? Where he wanted to leave the Lakers? They booed the hell out of him. They didn't want no part of Kobe. They're like, well, if you don't want to be part of this team, F you. Kobe could have been quickly forgotten despite what he did. Because look at it now. It's not even the Staples Center now. It's the crypto arena. The Bucks organization are doing the right thing. They're putting the right pieces around Giannis, man. And the fact that now LeBron possibly might want to play with Steph Curry, though, I'm telling you, he's not going to be respected if he does it. He's not. It just is what it is, man. And it's funny because I wasn't even thinking about coming tonight, but what I saw what Malika Andrews did, man, I was just like, nah, chill. I got to give Giannis a lot of credit. Giannis shows that he's a humble guy. You know, Giannis did it the right way. I give the Bucks organization a lot of credit. They put the right pieces around him. They've made some adjustments in terms of how Giannis is playing this time. And check this out about Giannis. Giannis ain't afraid to fail. That's what I give him. That's what I appreciate about Giannis. Not only does he play hard on both ends of the court, but Giannis doesn't give up on his team. He gives it his all. And even though you could say that that's a bad shot or it's like Giannis shouldn't be shooting that, Giannis doesn't have the fear to take those shots. And you can see that his game is improving. I just think it's more difficult for him because of the fact that even though obviously he's pretty strong, he has a big wingspan. So it's kind of harder to control the dribble with the basketball in terms of him, which is why it looks like he travels a lot. And he does have a long stride. Like Giannis is willing to work. And the funny thing is he has a lot. He's already accomplished a lot and he's not even 30 years old, which is why it's still scary for Giannis that he can only get better. You know, Brandon says, yes, Giannis is a beast and he's not afraid to do stuff like that that's not in his game and work on it. Facts. Tyrese says Steph will be a spot-up shooter with LeBron, and LeBron wants Steph to open the floor more so he could catch Kareem even faster. No, I'm telling you right now, if LeBron wants to go to Golden State, he could do it. Just be ready for that scrutiny. Just be ready because the media's going to come after you hard. Some of them are going to love it because they're like, well, LeBron, it increases his chances to win another title. No question. But others are going to be like, well, let's see, you were in Miami, you were in Cleveland, you went to LA, and now you're in Golden State. And they're going to look at it as kind of like, you know, at this stage of your career, you was ring chasing. I mean, Shaq was doing the same thing before he had to hang it up. But that was also more so what was motivating Shaq was the fact that Kobe was able to win 2 chips without him. So that's why Shaq was ring chasing. Like late in his career, even though he was not as effective as he was, you know, late. But yeah, man, getting back to this, man, Malika Andrews, hopefully she is able to understand the information that she talked about Kobe was a flat out lie, and I had to debunk it because, again, Kobe tore his Achilles in Game 78. That's what happened. And also, the Lakers did not win a game. She's right about that, but you're failing to realize that Kobe Bryant didn't play in that series. Not saying that the Lakers were going to beat the Spurs, but at least I think they could have gotten themselves probably maybe 1 or 2 games. Because you're talking about Kobe Bryant, and up to that point, Kobe was having one of his most underrated seasons of his career. So who's to say that they couldn't make a little noise with Kobe on the floor? And then you lied about 2014 and 2015. Not referring to the fact that Kobe was hurt. He missed 76 games. Yeah, he wasn't impactful in the lineups that he was, and people getting upset on why is Kobe getting praised for, even though he was 10 and 25. I said, again, Kobe had no expectations by this point in his career. He got he got his little life contract for what he meant to the organization, 2 years for $48 million. Kobe was not the same player. He was injured, and on top of that, the Lakers were rebuilding. They let him know that. So Kobe was just used as an asset at that point of his career. That's why people don't get him on him like that, except the media. The media wanted him to retire badly. They wanted him out of the NBA. They wanted him gone. Oh, man, but everybody on the Lakers, you can't spell Lakers without an L. Everybody on that team got to take an L. The main people, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, and LeBron James. It's all their damn fault. All of them. All of them. But LeBron got to take the blunt because he's the leader of the team. He's the de facto. He got to take responsibility. If he's pointing fingers, it's just going to go to show you. Like I said, LeBron is one of the greatest to ever lace him up. Whether you love him or whether you hate him, LeBron is one of the greatest. But as a leader, as a former Bron fan myself, can't duck the smoke. Can't. Like I told you, I used to be a huge Bron fan, back in his early days in Cleveland. Another problem is they got rid of Jerry West. And I'm just seeing Tyree's comment. Thank you. They've never been the same. Jeannie Buss disrespected Jerry West. You don't think that Jerry West, who knows the game of basketball, the teams that he has built over the years on different organizations, you don't think that this Laker team would be good? Brandon says so that you didn't like that he left Cleveland. Not the first. No, the first time was fine. I don't have an issue with him leaving Cleveland the first time. That was not an issue. It was really more so of when LeBron said that he wasn't planning on leaving Cleveland. This was in his second stop in Cleveland, and he was saying that was too much, but he ended up leaving Cleveland anyway. I'm like, okay, again, I don't got an issue if you want to leave Cleveland, but it's like, don't say one thing and then you do something else. Maybe it was because he didn't want the media. I'm not sure what his intentions were. I don't know. But what I will say is that his sights were set on the Lakers, I want to say a year before it was his last season in Cleveland, because his wife was already signing applications for Sierra Canyon the year before Bron's last season. So he was already 1 foot in, 1 foot out with Cleveland. Again, LeBron is a grown man. He could do what he wants. That's his decision. I'm just saying, like, he tried to control the narrative, though, with saying that he wasn't going to try to move because that was exhausting. But he left again. And the thing is, he's hinting that he wants to go to Golden State and play with Steph, which means he's hinting at leaving the Lakers. He does, and that's part of the reason that the Lakers or teams are in shambles, it's because a lot of moving parts have to happen. Like I said before, how does Bron work? He has to play with veterans and he has to play with shooters. He's never been a player that has been with a core and they develop together as a team. He doesn't really develop young players. Players only are better when they're one-dimensional with LeBron. It's when they're one-dimensional. When they have the ability to shoot, Bron gets an assist when he's able to make a pass and they shoot the basketball and they make it. But multi-dimensional players is where it hurts, and then also with other stars. He's been able to win with Wade and Bosh. Don't get me wrong. But Wade was able to allow LeBron to do his thing, and Wade even said he was going to be able to play off the ball. But that's the key. That's the key thing that you got to hear. It's to playing off the ball. Tyrese says, I hate the narrative that nobody wants to go to Cleveland because nobody wanted to go to Chicago in the 80s and MJ stayed. Is that true? Really? You know what? I'm going to have to do some research on that. Well, I will say this. There were players that did not want to go to Cleveland, but that's where David Griffin comes in because he tried to get some players to come there. It just didn't end up working out, but he tried. Like I said, I've mentioned this before, but he tried to get Kevin Durant to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers, despite the fact that Kevin blew a 3-0 and Russell Westbrook and the Thunder blew a 3-1 lead to Golden State. And LeBron's team came back from 3-1 and beat Steph, Clay, and company, and Steph, Clay, Dre, and company in the finals. They were David Griffin was trying to pair Kevin Durant with LeBron James. Could you imagine the best player in the world and the second best player in the world on the same team? The Warriors would have no shot. They wouldn't have been able to deal with that. And remember, at that point, Kevin Durant's game was pretty much just about as complete as can be. At that point, KD was in his prime. Well, in the early part of the 80s, it was drug infested. The early part. If you look at even, I would say, I could say MJ's first 2 seasons was drug infested. The very first. They were. Well, we could go on and on. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is the impromptu stream right here of the Louis Sports Network. Oh, you don't believe me, Freddie? Check out the articles. There's articles on it. Tons of articles. Shout out to Daniel Berry in the building. Oh, the Clippers almost blew a 39-point lead. Here's the thing, though. Paul George is back, so that kind of is not that's not an excuse. I'm sorry. That's not an excuse. I almost tried to make a pass for the Clippers. I can't do that. I get that you don't have Kawhi Leonard and all that, but I'm sorry. Bang bang. You almost blew a 39-point lead to the Suns. No. Sorry. No excuses on that for the Clippers. Nope. I don't care if Kawhi's not playing. If he played, it don't matter. You don't blow a 39-point lead. Even if you weren't expected to be up by 39. You don't blow a 39-point lead. I remember the Clippers were blowing a whole bunch of leads with yeah, but that makes me curious about that 80s and with the whole Cleveland and Chicago thing. I might look in, I need to look into that for the research. But anyway, guys, have a wonderful night from the Louis Sports Network. Salute to Freddie, salute to Brandon, salute to Jay, salute to G Money, salute to Daniel Berry, the GOAT, salute to Tyrese, salute to Anthony L, salute to Tara Matthews, salute to Zeddy Perry, salute to Karam, salute to Ryan, wherever you are. Guys, continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe to the channel for those who are new to the channel. Bless up, everybody. Tomorrow, we're back with baseball. Friday, we're back with some basketball and baseball. Have a wonderful night, and you already know what it is, man. Monkeys in the truck. Salute to everybody. Appreciate y'all as always, man. Oh, and before I go, I don't mention this throughout the stream, but again, if you would like to donate to the channel, you definitely can. You can either super chat or you could donate. The donations to the PayPal or Cash App are in the description. Again, don't have to, but if you would like to, you definitely can. just want to mention that. But anyway, guys, take care. Have a wonderful night. Monkeys in the Truck, play that outro for my music. Play it. Kobe, tell them the message to end the video, man. And I'm
so many times, and I just wish they would just stop. You know what I mean? Just stop. I mean, he was, Michael Jordan. I'm Kobe Bryant. I mean, we're two different players, and I wish people would just let it go. It really annoys me because you can't compare